Hi, I'm Rob Hastie, Artistic Director of Sheffield Theatres. In March 2020, I directed Shakespeare's Coriolanus for the Crucible stage, and in this recording I'm joined by some of the cast to talk about the play, our production and the experience of working at the Crucible. Huge thanks to Eddie, Alex, Malcolm, Stella and Tom for joining us for this look back, and I hope you enjoy watching this conversation.
Hello everybody, welcome. Coriolanus ran for about 2 weeks in the Crucible in March. We'd been rehearsing for 5 weeks before that and planning the production a lot longer. And although it was really sad to have to cut it short, I think I certainly was really proud of what we put on stage. And I just wanted to start by asking the actors that we've got here. Perhaps you might introduce yourselves and say actually who you played, and also what your happiest memory of that production was. I'm going to start to my left with Tom.
Oh, so I'm Tom. I was playing Caius Marcius / Coriolanus. He gets crowned with the name Coriolanus halfway through the show, or about a third of the way through the show. My happiest moment, that's a tough one, not just because I absolutely loved every second of it. There were moments in rehearsals. I remember suddenly having the Sheffield People's Theatre come in for the first time, and the energy they brought in the room was just so overwhelming. Like every single one of them was incredible and just gave it 100%. And it really just transformed the play and made us suddenly think, oh my God, we've got something special here.
Alex, you unmute yourself. Alex Young.
Hello, hi, I'm Alex Young. I played Brutus, Junius Brutus in the piece, who is sort of one of the sort of scheming politicians who did not like Caius Marcius very much. It was just a gorgeous experience. It was probably one of the sweetest, gentlest, kindest companies I've ever worked with, I think. And for such a sort of a masculine play, everyone was just so very gentle and nice. It was very blissful to have such a nice people, because sometimes when you've got such sort of animosity in a show, it can sometimes leak into the cast sort of the environment and the feeling of everyone, but that we were in no danger there, because it was such a lovely bunch. So the whole thing was just a very happy thing. And actually, even though we didn't know it was our last performance, that final Saturday night was a really special one. So yeah, it was gorgeous time.
Stella.
Hi, I'm Stella. I played Volumnia, Mother from Hell, and it was the best experience I've had for a long time. To be with a company that was, as Alex said, just despite the play, incredibly caring and loving company, and that was really special. I think the first moment we got on stage, our first preview, I think for me was the most thrilling experience, because I suddenly realized how exciting that stage was. And being able to stride at angles and just, for me, the greatest regret is that I was just beginning to learn that space when we were taken away from it. But that theatre, that stage was a huge thrill for me. I loved it.
Thank you, Stella. Eddie, who did you play, and what's your happiest memory of the production?
Hello, my name's Eddie. I played a character called Cotus, which was a character that Rob, in Rob's genius, he sort of formed out of many of Orpheus's his men, and he kind of amalgamated them into one character who was his lieutenant, and in the end was his sort of quite devious lieutenant. And I also played one of the citizens as well. And my highlight was two very quick ones. Firstly, well, it's a spoiler, but the show is no longer going to be going. When I get to shot Tom in the head, that was pretty special. So that was, I guess, firing the gun for the first time was very exciting. And yeah, just, I mean, it was my first professional theatre job. So I feel incredibly lucky to have been with the company that we were, and with the director and the creative team that we were. I also don't have anything to compare it to, so I'm, based on what these guys are saying, it sort of feels like my next theatre job. If it's not good, I'm gonna be like, it's rubbish.
Thank you, Eddie. Malcolm, who did you play? What was your happiest moment
Hello.
of the production?
I played Menenius. Well, you think he's the elder wise statesman, but he isn't really. Well, I don't know. I mean, the whole thing's a nightmare. No, no, it was so sad not to do the last 2 weeks. Really, it was, you know, it got better, I think, as we went along. And, my greatest joy was being back on that stage, because I started, one of my first jobs was on the stage of the Crucible not long after it opened in 76, 77. I was a juvenile then, and to go back again onto it, I've been on it twice since, was sort of wonderful. I mean, it is, as Stella says, it's the most terrific stage, and particularly for Shakespeare, and particularly for those big public plays about the important things about how we behave to each other and how society should be organized. I think that it's the absolute ideal stage for that, and the audiences were great.
The way that we configured the theatre so that it felt, hopefully to audiences coming in, like we were in, you were in the Senate, you were in the Roman Senate. Anyone who saw Julius Caesar that we did in 2017, it was the design was very, very similar. We were accessing the same design world. And I wondered if any of our actors here just wanted to comment on what that would like to be on that design, on that set in the Roman Senate. Jump in, anyone.
We had like little troughs where we sat down like we were in the European Parliament or something like that, and we had little microphones. And I know it's quite childish, but it was really good fun just to be able to like speak into a microphone and pretend to be sensible and grown up for a little while. It was lovely. And then we had the giant expanse to play in on the stage. And then it felt like there was sort of this continuous ring all the way around the auditorium, because we got rid of row E, I think it was. So we had a playing space in the middle of the auditorium. So it really felt, I mean, you always feel quite surrounded and included by the audience. But even more so, I think, this time. Yeah, it was really thrilling. It was like there was no sort of escaping the people watching us and judging your behaviour. And yeah, it was great. It was very good. Oh, look at it.
What did it feel like? Those of you, Malcolm talked about the feeling of walking out onto that stage, and Stella, you mentioned that as well. Tom, I'm wondering, when you've got those big speeches in which you're really railing against the people of Rome. What was it like to be surrounded on a thrust stage by people that you could use in that way?
It was a complete gift, really. I spoke a few minutes ago about having the Sheffield's People's Theatre in, and what that did for a play as a whole, but selfishly, from an actor's point of view, I had so much to play with and from. And actually, I found it on quite a few nights towards the end of the run as well, when you start to relax and your instincts are firing a bit heavier. I started to find it very upsetting as well. Just this hundreds of people, it felt like, screaming, kill him, to the rock, and that feeling of being betrayed by the people that quite literally only 30 minutes before I was dying with sweat and blood, giving my all to, and the betrayal of that. And it really just helped, because it's such an intimate play. I remember you saying at the beginning that the Sheffield's such a great space to play because it's so intimate, but then can do the epic. And I really found that I'd have scenes, say with Stella as my mum, very sort of intimate scenes, that then to just go 10 minutes later to be able to sort of push right back and not only fill that space, but look the audience in the eye at certain moments when Rob asked me to use the audience as members of the Senate, and to be able to look someone in the eye that was maybe, 30 feet away from me was like nothing I've ever experienced on stage before. So it was completely new and just utterly exhilarating.
Stella, do you think Volumnia would have made a much more successful leader than Coriolanus?
Oh, definitely. I do, because she can see both sides. I think I was just thinking about the line that always sticks with me that Volumnia says at the very end to Coriolanus when she kneels before him, and he says, and I respond, "Thou art my warrior. I helped to frame thee. I'm as guilty of making you what you are." And so I think she fails. She's failed on one level because she hasn't been able to help him to see both sides. He has always been able to see both sides. And so therefore, yes, I think she would be a better leader. And I think she would have been a better leader in this current climate that we're living in. Any woman would be better. But she's also very, very, very flawed. But I think she can learn. I think she learns a lot by the end of the play as well.
Did Tom like Coriolanus as a person? So I'll ask you about that. And to everybody, how important is it, do you, when you're playing a character, to like them, or to find them likable yourself? Start with Tom.
Well, I suppose you have to, the first thing you have to do with every character is to understand them. And you can't approach a character in order to understand them by thinking they're a bad person, because no bad person thinks I'm a bad person. They will all have reasons, however warped they may be. And it's the gift of and the joy of being an actor is you get to walk in someone else's shoes and understand that. So I did have to approach Coriolanus as liking him. I do also think he is a likable person. I think having the privilege of doing a play written by arguably one of the greatest playwrights of all time, all arguments, however bizarre and out there and fascist or offensive or right-wing, however they are, all arguments are incredibly well written. So even if you're saying something along the lines of the weak need to be led sort of thing that Coriolanus might say, it's incredibly well written. So it wasn't too hard to like him as a person. And I found him very, I felt sorry for him a lot of the time. A lot of the time my instincts were telling me that he didn't want to be, he was resisting these positions that he was being put in. And once he was put in that position, he was condemned for it. And I think, the whole journey of the play, he's saying, I don't want this. I don't want to be this politician. I don't want to be this person. I don't want to play the game you are all playing. And then when he is forced into that position and reacts how you'd expect him to react, he's condemned for it. So I found him very sympathetic and quite alone. So I did like him very much. But you always have to, I think, as an actor.
And anyone else? What's your relationship to the characters you play? Do you need to find them likable? Malcolm.
No, I don't think you do. I think you have to make them enjoyable. I've met a very few people, and I've played a lot of them, who love being horrible, who love being selfish, who love indulging the worst sides of human nature. And not Menenius. Menenius isn't like that. I did like Menenius. I thought he was a foolish, fond old man in lots of ways, and silly, but always, and limited and blinkered, but a lovable man in lots of ways. But no, I love playing people who are absolutely vile, because it means you can play this epitome of selfishness and cruelty, and it's all pretend. You don't, you're not really hurting anybody. You're just being, it's like watching a horror movie, I suppose. You know, you go, oh God, I don't want to go anywhere near there, but it's nice to play at it. So I do quite like playing them, and I for whatever reason, upper class shits a lot of them come my way.
See, that couldn't be more different for me because I got these cheeks. See, like no one has ever cast me as anyone remotely mean. So I loved playing someone who's quite unlikable. Yeah, and it was a totally new challenge, and so it was interesting as well because I nearly always fall in love with the women I played because they're generally brilliant. So it was a real challenge to yeah, and not necessarily like her, but like you've both, like Tom and Magma both said, to understand them and to accept them as well, and like, yeah, to not go about going, oh, I must look very, very scheming, but to try and find her moral compass, which was quite tough because they're a little bit ambiguous at the best of times. But yeah, but no, it was lovely. So thanks, Rob.
Eddie, you actually, as you said at the beginning, because we invented a character for you, amalgamated from lots of bits, you know, lots of other smaller named characters in the show. So in a sense, you're one of the first actors for 400 years to play a new part by William Shakespeare. So did you feel like there was enough did we do our job well? Do you think we found enough to create a sort of a coherent character arc? Or
I think so. I think it's more about the world that you create around it, so that you can go, okay, can this new character that we're kind of forming, can he exist within it, and is it credible that he exists within it? Just in terms of that, the question that was asked about liking characters you played and stuff like that, and it's interesting with the character of Cotus because, like you said, it was kind of formed. I guess you have to do a bit more filling in the gaps, but also although it might not be on the page of them, I don't know, showing compassion or being sympathetic, or you can answer some of the questions of going, what are the redeeming features of this character, even though actually a lot of the time my character was bloodthirsty and hated Coriolanus, but you go, okay, well, what are the redeeming features there? He's incredibly loyal, and he holds integrity as a vital part of his identity, because for so long we've been fighting against Coriolanus, and then all of a sudden it switched, and Orphidius invites him in, and now he's part of our army, and that is totally compromising of my sort of pride and integrity, even though it doesn't say that on the page at all. But you know, it's the world that we create around it to go, oh yeah, actually he would react in that way, and that is in a way a redeemable feature, and something that I, you know, as an actor can go, I really respect that, because you've got a pride, you know. So it's not always what's on the page, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Thanks, Eddie. The fight scenes were very full on. Did you have any mishaps during rehearsals?
I suppose the political answer is no, of course. No, we actually didn't. No, we didn't. I mean, it was very full on. We kind of built up to it a bit, you know, in stages, and Rob made the brilliant decision Theo and I started our fight training, rehearsal, choreography, even before we started rehearsing in Sheffield. You know, it was our second day in London. Theo and I were throwing each other around a room, which allowed us the time to sort of build up. You know, we went slow and sped up and things. One of the challenges really was Remy, our brilliant stage combat choreographer, fight choreographer, taught us that the Sheffield Crucible stage is very difficult to do stage fighting on, because you're being viewed from three sides. So obviously if you're in a proscenium march space, you can hide naps and hit things like that, whereas it was almost impossible to do. So Theo and I had to take a bit of a leap of faith when Rennie said, right, I need you to actually, there we are, look how much bigger he is than me. Still, and I beat him somehow. But we had to really take a leap of faith with each other, because Rennie said there are moments where you need to connect, and you sort of open your hand up, and so you're not actually punching someone full in the face. But it was a real leap of faith to do that, particularly with we're both big people, so we have the ability to hurt each other. But thankfully, I can say I trust Theo with my life, having been through that journey with him. And no, we hurt ourselves occasionally, on them hitting the floor or anything, but never got punched or stabbed or shot or anything.
Live theatre is excellent, but many of you have also appeared in television and film. Which do you prefer? What do you find easy or hard moving from one to the other? Particularly apt question as we appear to you on screen talking about a stage show. Anyone want to say anything about the difference between stage acting and screen acting? Malcolm?
Yeah, I mean, the immediate one that I always find is that I get more time to rehearse when I rehearse for the stage. And as I think rehearsal is about the most valuable and useful thing you can do. The fact that it's difficult sometimes in film and TV to get proper rehearsal, which means people turn up playing very similar things that they played the last time you saw them, is frustrating. And I like, unlike some actors I know, which I quite understand, I like the repetition. I like to repeat what I'm doing, so that I've done it. So that the more I've done it, I go, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. Like, no, that's what I like. It's just the way I am. And other actors aren't like this. I still get slightly self-conscious at the first time I'm in front of the camera for a while. Whereas on stage, I'm never self-conscious. So I don't know what that tells you.
I enjoyed watching. I caught a repeat of Casino Royale the other night, Malcolm, and was reminded again that you are the first person that Daniel Craig kills. It's James Bond.
I am. That was funny because it was a big budget movie. Of course, we had all day to do it. So by the time we'd done it, we were completely confined. But as others will tell you, that that luxury is much scarcer now than it used to be. But thank you.
Variation on that question, actually, Alex. You've been in. You're a Crucible veteran. You've been here a lot, but usually you get to speak and sing. We've seen you in lots of musicals in Sheffield. What's it like? What's the difference between acting in a musical where singing is available as an acting tool and something like this?
Well, yes. Interestingly, comparing a musical to Shakespeare is not. There's not. I don't know if I'll be crucified saying this, but I didn't feel there was much of a difference because they're both dealing with heightened language. They are open-hearted in as much as you, as the actor, share an awful lot. You're sort of forced to share. They both use. Well, I just think verse is like song. You have a rhythm and a meter and a slightly poetic way of saying things. So I think in terms of Shakespeare musical, I always say that Shakespeare's writing musicals anyway. So yeah. And I think there shouldn't really be a difference in your approach in the way that you direct or the way that you conceive your character. And I don't understand why there should be a difference. It's a lot easier to just speak, to be honest with you. It was much easier. Someone was saying how I was doing, because I was a bit tired and a bit poorly during the first bit of rehearsals. But I was like, what are you talking about? This is fine. I don't have to go on and dance for 4 minutes and then sing a song. I'm fine. This is easy. But it's not easy, but it's a hell of a lot easier. Yeah, so I didn't feel like I had to approach the work any differently. Maybe that showed, but I don't know why there would be a difference.
Thank you all. I'm gonna wind up in a minute, but Stella, you said just maybe before some of our viewers at home joined us that you were wondering whether you could remember the lines and discovered that you could. Do you think, collectively, two questions? Do you think Shakespeare stays with you longer?
Yes.
In your brains, and therefore can you? Because I know that we're joined today by some people who didn't even get to see the show, very sadly. So all of this will be complete nonsense to most of you. can you remember what your favourite line was from the show? Any of you? I'll give you a minute.
Should we be silent and not speak? Our raiment and state of bodies would bewray what life we had led since thy exile. I just love that. It means, and it sort of feels very important and very pertinent at the moment. Our exile from the theatre. You know, should we be silent and not speak? I want to speak. I want to speak so much. It's very difficult, but yes. And I think you do remember Shakespeare lines longer than, oh God, I can't remember half the things of the plays. But I can still remember Titania. I can still remember great chunks of Ophelia. You know, I mean, just lots. Yeah, yeah.
Alex, did you have one?
Oh, I loved. I mean, I love. Well, I mean, I had like one gag, and I normally play funny people, so I was very pleased to have at least one in this not very humorous play, because after everything's gone horribly wrong, and they've come on going, oh no, Coriolanus is coming back with Phidias, and the world's going to burn, and she just sort of goes, I do not like this news, and it just made me really laugh. But probably the most beautiful line was where is this viper that would depopulate the city and be every man himself? I just thought that was marvelous.
It's glorious, isn't it?
Mm.
Eddie?
The stuff that stuck out to me was actually some of the imagery that Phidias, Theo's character, talks about quite a lot when talking about how he wants to rip Coriolanus to shreds, as they often both did about each other. And although it's a very violent play and there's a lot of violent imagery in it, but actually some of that imagery is really, really gorgeous. So just the first thing that stuck out to me was when Phidias says about wanting to wash his fierce hand in his heart. So basically just pluck right into his chest and rip his heart out. And I thought, that's so beautiful. No, I thought that's horrible, but the way that Shakespeare said it, it just really stuck in my mind, and just the visceral nature of it. And my character was very privy to those speeches a lot, so they stick in my head, just the beautiful imagery of, yeah, stuff like that.
I'm going to draw us to a close now, and say a huge thank you to Tom, who's gone, to Alex, to Eddie, to Malcolm, to Stella, to everybody there. We were enormously touched when we had to start refunding this, that so many, refunding those performances that we had to cancel, that so many people donated their ticket price. If you were one of those people and you're watching, thank you very, very much. It means an enormous amount to us, as do the donations and the expressions of support that we've been having coming in. You being here today is a way of supporting us. Anything that you felt you could donate via our website, I promise you will go to directly help us as we plan for the future. We know that money's tight at the moment, so we're not making the demands on you that we might otherwise make in our with the theatre open, but we nevertheless appreciate all and any support you can give us, and that's not just financial, that is you being here as well today, because it's until we can make theatre again together, it is nice to talk about it at least, and remind ourselves that theatre is what we do, it's not just the building that we usually do it in. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you all for watching at home. Last time I'll say that. Thank you to Alex, Eddie, Stella, Malcolm, and maybe we'll do this again sometime. Thanks, folks. Cheerio.